Hi, and welcome to the Deviant panel on monetization. Now, whether you're looking for tier-based opportunities to monetize your art with DeviantArt subscriptions, or if you prefer to offer downloadable packs of content through premium galleries, DeviantArt has plenty of options to monetize your craft. I'd like to thank you for being here on the Day of the Deviant, a day celebrating art, creativity, and deviant art. If you're watching live, there are videos and prizes throughout the day, so stay tuned and don't forget to join in for the World Inside Your Mind Challenge in DeviantArt, where you can win up to $11,000 in US prizes, including laptops, drawing tablets, and more. Find out more in the link in the description of this video. Now, today we have with us an amazing group of panelists. We just wanted to take a moment to go around and introduce all of our awesome panelists that we have today. We got some really, really fantastic artists and hard workers in our midst. But I want to start us out. My name is Steven Sitten. I go online as Stumpy Fongo. I worked on the marketing side of the entertainment industry for about 8 or 9 years. I worked with clients like Ubisoft, Disney, EA Games, Activision on stuff like video games, movies, toy box art, and a lot of different intellectual properties. And now I stream full-time and freelance on Twitch as a DeviantArt Collective member.
Hi, my name is Sarah Ford. Most people know me as Adorka Stock. I used to go by Senshi Stock until I changed my name this year. And I live in Central Mass. I've been doing pose references for artists for 14 years. And I also am an artist and I make very fancy, nerdy hair bows.
Yeah, hi, I'm RJ Palmer. I'm a concept artist and illustrator based in California. You probably have heard of my stuff from Detective Pikachu, but I've also done like those realistic Pokemon illustrations everybody's seen. But I just like to draw monsters, man, and I'll draw monsters for like any project, games, movies, whatever. I'm just into that.
Hi, I'm Sozo Micah. I'm an illustrator. I draw pretty things mostly. I try to do that. I'm mostly known for my pinups and kind of fashion-esque illustrations. I've done work for Riot Games, DC, even Under Armour, and just a few other comic book companies out there. But yeah, that's what I'm mostly known for.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you guys being here. So today's panel is on monetization. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you guys have done in your professional careers to help you monetize your craft, and talk a little bit about why artists would want to monetize. But before we get into that, we're going to give away some prizes today. So we're going to kick off one of those contests right now on deviantart.com/team. You'll see a status update called Monetization Panel Challenge. We want you to guess right now the number of times we'll say the word monetize, not how many times it appears on the screen over the course of the stream. Not monetization, not money, just monetize. So that's an additional 2 right there. Don't leave your guesses in the chat. You need to do it on the status update on deviantart.com/team. So go make your guesses now. The first 2 to guess correctly will get 8,000 points and 1 year Core Plus membership. Additionally, with the new Core Plus, you'll be able to give out a Core membership every week. So we're going to jump right into some questions. And the first question that I want to just ask to the group, just for anybody that has any thoughts, is why would an artist want to monetize their craft in the first place?
I mean, we got to live, right? Like, I mean, like the big reason I think is like, it's like you want to draw, and you want to be able to just do that all the time. And like the best way to do that is somebody paying you to do that. So that's one of the big reasons I do it, I think.
Financial stability sort of concept. So we're gonna start out with RJ, and we'll just go around and you guys can kind of discuss some of the things that you're doing. But I'm curious of some of the things that you've done or that you're doing now that you are doing to monetize. Things like commission sales. Just give us a rundown of kind of the broad overlook of what you're doing.
Sure. So like in the before pandemic, a big chunk of my income was coming from like convention sales. I would do like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 conventions a year, try to do one every 2 months. And the nice thing about doing conventions is like you can monetize like illustrations you've already done, right? Like doing like commissions and work for hire, like means you have to actually do something. And then like once you finish doing the thing, like, then like that's it, like you've made the money and you can't like really make more money from it. But like when you do stuff for conventions, you are able to like take stuff even from 5-6 years ago and still like get return on investing that time. So I do that, and I also sell stuff on my store site online, just like my own like Shopify site, and throw stuff up on Gumroad, and on DeviantArt too, I hope soon. Basically anywhere and everywhere that there's a place to get money, I'm trying to get money for art.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, Sarah, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the stuff that you're doing now?
Pretty much very similar, even with the pose reference stuff. I sell themed packs, and I have a subscription site where people can sign up to get rewards, and it's kind of the same sort of thing. I'm just trying to find multiple ways that I can get my resources out to people, and then I also do a ton of free stuff too, so that people don't have to worry too much if they can't shell out a few bucks a month to subscribe or whatever. So that's kind of where it's at for me. And on the art side of things, I have a private Facebook group that's been absolutely killing it the whole pandemic.
That's awesome. So glad to hear that. All right, Micah, tell us a little about some of the stuff that you're doing to monetize.
I'd say that to monetize my work, I do a lot of the similar things that they mentioned. I run a website of my own. I sell assets on alternative websites, but I Twitch stream on the side, which also kind of promotes my product to people who might not have seen it otherwise. Newcomers are always filtering through my streams. I did do cons a little bit before the pandemic, and there was something else, and I can't remember.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you guys a question because Sarah mentioned something and it brought up a thought. How do you guys, so out of all the things that you're trying to monetize, there's that side of, you're trying to make money on things that you're doing, but there's also the side of, I need to give people stuff for free so that they have content to be around for. How do you guys balance that?
What I will say is sometimes on those sites that I mentioned, I do drop like freebies. One, it's just to give something back to the community, and two, it also helps you get discovered because people are always looking for free stuff, like honestly. So it's just that many more people get led to other things that I sell or have to offer as an artist or creator.
I feel like I
Yeah,
kind
I
of
think
cheated because like I have multiple years of content that I've made, but I haven't posted it all. So now I've just got this massive backlog of like, 80 gigabytes of pose references that I can just pitter out anywhere all over the place. Feels a
Nice.
little bit like cheating.
So yeah, how do you
Yeah.
manage the difference between sorry, RJ, how do you manage the difference between the stuff that you post for free on DeviantArt and the stuff that you like put on, subscription services or other places that people have to purchase?
The subscription stuff is usually the more recent stuff. So in the last couple of months, I've hired a bunch of new models, and like people are really excited about the new models, and the new models go out first to the subscription services and the paid packs, and then it just sort of all trickles down eventually into the free stuff.
Like you can't just always be selling, right? As soon as like you have to be putting out enough free stuff where people still think that you're like a person and not like, just some like company like hawking your wares. So it's like difficult to strike a balance. And I think like some artists can get to a position where they're like only selling, and then they just become like a company and nobody like wants to interact with them anymore because they don't like see them as like that person. So like at least for me, I think it's really important to like spend the time like doing stuff like you just want to put out for free. So then like, a few times a year it can be like, hey guys, I really want you to buy all this shit.
So I'm gonna throw this question out there. So I know that there's a lot of people that are listening today that are wondering, I'm just getting started out. I'm a beginner artist. I don't even know where to start. How did you guys transition from being a small, starting out artist? I think that, I've met with you all and we were all pretty consistent in the fact that, most of us when we first started out took commissions for way less than we should have, those $20, $30 commissions. What,
And
yeah, $10 commissions. You do what you got to do, right? But how did you guys transition from that part of your lives into where you are now? And what would you say to artists that are just starting out?
it's a really slow burn. Like it was always just such a slow build for me. On the art side and on the pose reference side, so it just took and this is true for a lot of my peers right now who are all sort of at the point in our careers where we're really starting to pick up the pace. We're really starting to get these great opportunities and these networking opportunities, and it's all just like we kind of just hyped each other up along the way until we all got to the point where now we're all like doing what we've wanted to do our whole lives. So we're looking back at our 18, 19-year-old selves and saying, hey, you're here, you did it, you're at the thing now. And it really was just like for most of the people I know, it was just cranking it out, dedication, going back to it, keeping at it. And then like something happens and then you're over that threshold.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like that building on that, like if you just keep doing it, you're going to outlast the people who stop. And eventually
Yes.
somebody's going to have to hire you, right?
How do you guys, and not necessarily looking to talk about specific numbers, but how do you guys go about, especially back in those days, figuring out how much to charge when people reach out to you and ask you about commissions? Well, how do you answer them? Do you guys, use the price sheet mentality? What do you suggest for people that are trying to look for some direction there?
As far as I'm concerned, like when I was trying to figure out like my prices early on was like, what's minimum wage? Try and make at least minimum wage. And then as I got more and more, like, my audience was growing, I could ask for more money. And then eventually like companies come sniffing around and they're like, actually, we pay you this much. And you're like, oh shit, I've been like way undercharged. So then like, it's just sort of like seeing what people will offer you and then seeing if you can negotiate and talking to your friends and seeing what they're getting. And then you can sort of like get a good idea of sort of your self-worth.
So, Micah, I'm curious, an artist often has a hard time figuring out what their worth is, given their current skill level, where they're at in their journey. How do you determine your worth, or what, the kind of things that would help you to figure out, what to tell someone who's asking you about what you charge and stuff like that?
I had to factor in the cost of where I lived. I had to factor in things like the amount of time it takes me to complete a piece. I guess the elements in the drawing itself that I was being asked to do, like I had to consider all of those things, because if I couldn't keep up with that and I kept taking things for too low of a wage, it just wasn't sustainable and I would put myself in a really bad situation. So it's kind of like looking out for yourself at the end of the day as well. And you have to be responsible for yourself at the end of the day. And you're freelancing, you don't have benefits or any of those other things. So you really need to be able to cover those costs. You can't be too cheap unless you
Yeah.
have like some other security measure to fall back on.
Yeah. So some of the things that we talked about when you and I met prior to this was your idea of like behind price sheets and, giving prices to people, how you determine your worth. Yeah. You want to kind of touch on some of those thoughts that you had?
Well, I personally never really was a fan of using a price sheet because I like being able to negotiate my terms depending on what the project is. I find that when I would if someone put a price sheet, people would try to finagle as much as they can out of that, or like whittle it down even more with like this expectation that it was going to be this way, despite whatever it was they were asking for, versus let me figure out what you want and I can adjust around that and see if it's worth my time. And if it is, this is how much it costs. That's my personal approach for that.
Yeah, I know you have some vehement objections to the idea of a price sheet. RJ, what do you want to you want to talk to that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, like building on what Micah said, like I think being like giving yourself the flexibility to take on whatever project without putting yourself in this box of like, hey, this thing costs $100. Like it turns you into like, a Burger King menu. Like, they're gonna see like what's on the menu and then they're gonna pick like, oh, I want this, but actually can I get it with like, this side instead, right? As opposed to like them coming to you with like, hey, this is what I really want. And then you can like assess everything that like they've given you and be like, okay, I think it's going to cost like this many hundreds of dollars. Can you do that? And then you can like, like negotiate with them from there. But I think that allows you to get into a position where like you are meeting the needs of the project rather than like the project meeting the needs of their budget.
Yeah. So Sarah, I know in the beginning, a lot of the stuff that you were doing, it was mostly just to try to give back to the community because people were asking for it. How did you kind of transition into figuring out how much to charge and ways to monetize what you were already doing?
Yeah, a lot of what I did was free for years and years. And then I had a baby in 2014, and all of a sudden my time got really less. So I wanted to keep making art, and I had a baby, and I was thinking, like, how am I going to keep devoting like some time to the pose reference stuff? So it was like about the same time where I started having these options for like subscription-based services, and like online sales sites got easier because I used to sell my pose references on USB drives that I would mail out to people because there was no good way to host large downloads online. Like there wasn't an easy way to do it. So the timing was really good because I was able to set up that stuff and kind of, the idea was that I could just make a little bit of extra money on the side as like in supplement to my art income so that I could have this, so I could keep going with it basically, because I did like doing it, even though it wasn't like what I wanted my job to be. And this year is the first year that my post-reference work will make more money than my art. So I don't know how that happened.
The subscriptions seem to have been going pretty well for you, Sarah. I know there's a lot of people that have, different feelings about the idea of subscriptions, but, what have you felt like has worked about what you're doing with subscriptions? Some people have concerns about locking too much behind, like exclusive paywalls, as opposed to being able to post that freely on social media. What do you feel like is kind of what makes what you're doing work?
It's really different for I feel like it's really different maybe for me than for artists who are doing like art specifically, whereas my Patreon and my subscription stuff and my Gumroad are all post reference. So I have it's basically a glorified tip jar. People are giving me money because they want to support me and what I do, and in exchange they get like bits of things, but it's $1 to $5 a month. My Patreon is really little, like individually little, so it adds up to like a great amount that helps sustain me. But my responsibility to those people is that I just give them a few nice things, and we have this great agreement where they give me a couple of dollars and I give them a few nice things each month, and I try not to let it become more than just that simple.
Yeah. So Micah and RJ, I'm curious if you guys have dabbled much in the idea of subscription services, and if that has played much into your kind of monetization history.
Right now, I'm in a phase in my career where I'm getting a lot of commercial work, and that stuff is NDA. I can't share that with my followers or people who support me on those types of sites. So I feel like I can't even be as committed to doing something like that in a way that's really rewarding or fair for anyone. And I also don't really like having to do exclusive content. I like everybody being able to see my work. So the way I have it is just I post my stuff, everyone can see it. If you like what I do and you just want to support me doing it for like $1 a month. But outside of that, I just want to give my resources out in general. I know that's not really as a business mogul like, but it's just how I feel about that particular type of revenue source.
Yeah, I can totally see where you're coming from. RJ, do you have much experience in your history of dealing with subscription services?
I mean, honestly, it's mostly the same, and it is sort of just like a tip jar. It's like, hey, if you want to come in, like, see some sketches, maybe I don't post anywhere, I'll just throw those up. But like mostly, I just throw up everything that I actually finish, because it takes me so long to finish any one thing these days.
Yeah. So I was talking with Sarah a little bit earlier about some of the stuff that she's doing with her subscriptions. And I really loved what you were talking to me about, just the fact, the fact that it was a tip jar, that people are mostly just there to support you, the idea that you'll post things and maybe, only a percentage of those people will look at that. What was it like building that to get to that point for you?
Well, it was just really gradual. I mean, when I originally set it up, it was just, a pretty small group of people, and I've kind of rebuilt it a couple of times because I went too hard when I started, and it was like if you signed up at this level, you got like every photo I took ever as I like made them, and that was like it was more than any artist could reasonably even use. So I realized that I could I've made a couple of changes where I've like refined the rewards and sort of simplified things, made it easier. It's just really straightforward now, and it's simple enough that I can do it quarterly. So I can sit down and set the quarter up to post, and then I just don't have to think about it for 3 months. And then I just do that every 3 months, and it kind of runs itself. I do direct pose requests for people. So those pop up from time to time, but I have a studio in my house, so I just run in there and do it. And it's pretty easy to maintain. It's been really nice.
That's awesome. So with all the different things that you have going on, we're going to start with RJ first. How much would you say that your income is dependent on passive income?
It really depends on like what I'm doing as like my main gig right now. It's like sometimes I want to take like some time off and work on personal work. So then like the passive income is like the only income I'm getting that month, right? So it really varies from month to month. But it's like maybe a couple $1,000s a month, something like that. I'm not super sure, but it allows me to like sort of have like that safety net and take care of like food. So that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, all the stuff that you have going on, it's a lot to manage. Micah, there's a lot of things that you're doing behind the scenes that are a lot of busy work. How do you balance between, all the, the packaging and everything that you have to do for the store stuff and like actually having time to create something new?
Well, I hire someone to help me pack my orders at this point because it got to a point where it was so labor intensive that I didn't even get to draw some days, and that's just like, what's the point if it's not helping me anymore to get to work more, even if I'm technically making an income off of it? It's like, do I want to be a store or an artist? So I need to get other hands on deck so that I can keep being an artist a little bit. So
Yeah. So, I mean, in my own experience of, so I transitioned to full-time freelance recently, and I worked at a studio, and there was somebody that would handle, emails, somebody that would handle dealing with clients, somebody that would handle schedules. And I literally just had to show up to work, like look at the schedule, be like, oh, I'm working on this today, and just go to town. And it's been an incredibly wild experience, eye-opening for me to try to try to juggle all the different things that a freelancer and an independent artist has to do. And there are plenty of days where it kind of just becomes the job. How do you guys feel like you maintain the joy and the passion of what you're doing while also trying to juggle all these things and figure out how to monetize the various aspects of what you're doing?
oh boy, I got some news for you.
It's good news, right? All right, so I'll go first on this one. It's kind of like you wear all the hats, right? So at some point, the goal, right, is that you can start handing those hats off. So, like Micah saying, like somebody can now pack the orders. Like that's a job that can get, passed on to somebody that can handle it for you. So like, I'm sure RJ, do you have some people that help you with stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Family members, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Have the team, the team makes the dream work or whatever.
Yeah. Well, some days it's just going to be like, hey, today is the day I'm updating my store, and like that's it. Like, let's hope I can get it done today, and that's, I'm going to be good.
Hey, Micah, share some of your thoughts. I think it's important for people to hear them.
Yeah, the real story.
I got them all here, and these, you see these sticky notes? These are my to-do lists of all the tasks for my store. I have more. See, I have yes, this one and this one and this one, and I have like there's a whole pile on the floor here.
You're a person after my own heart.
Things that I have to manage on my store, and they get in the way of
That
me
is so
being
much
able
more
to
organized.
draw, realistically.
You
So,
aren't the only one.
yeah, that's my life right now, if I'm being
Lists.
honest.
A lot of lists.
Yeah, it's just like this whole
Spreadsheets.
pile, not to mention what I have organized on my database. I had to create a database to help me keep track of everything, and also one that my assistant can access so she can help me keep track of my brain. So it's just like it's a lot after a certain point. Yeah,
external brain.
there's so much I want to do, but it's just hard being one person, especially because I have to also create the artwork. If there was two of me, we'd be a deadly pair, I swear.
Yeah. So I think this is a good conversation to have, especially for those that are just starting out and trying to build up these systems. Because I'll be honest, there's a person on my streaming community on Twitch that that gives me the hardest time, and it took them like months to get me to finally buy a planner that I use to like write things down in, just because I was just trying to wing it in the beginning, because I just I wasn't busy enough to the point that I needed it. But it started to get to the point that I'm just like I'm juggling like 45 eggs. I'm like, well, things are getting messy. So for if you could go back in time, you're starting out, you're a young artist, you're starting to build up these systems. I mean, what advice would you give people to help to like manage time or stay organized or just stay positive? Any of the above.
Name your Photoshop files correctly. Put things in folders. Have a client database where each client's stuff is organized in folders, so you don't have to clean it later, because it's not fun.
Trying to find things. Yeah. For me, it was just I'm an art person, and the business aspect of things was learn as you go. It was kind of trial by fire. Like learning how to file estimated income taxes so you don't get to the end of the year and get slammed because none of your income was taxed for the whole year. My first freelance year was truly an experience on that on that run. It's just stuff that no one ever like teaches you, so you just kind of have to figure it out as you go, and sometimes it's painful.
Get a Dropbox.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, I got a
do it.
PO box this year. I feel very
Yes.
yeah,
Just
it's great.
What about you, RJ? What sort of systems do you have in place, or what would you recommend to 20-year-old RJ about how to stay on top of things?
Sure. I mean, writing stuff down. I mean, I was already doing that at 20 though. It was like a thing. Like I've always been like actually pretty organized in terms of getting stuff, like knowing exactly, like I've always put like all my client work like into the folders, name of client with the PSD and JPEGs on their own files. Even like I still have like reference folders in like those folders. So like I can go and access anything as far back as like my whole career. I also had like a really bad computer crash back in 2012. So ever since then, I've been working out of my Dropbox entirely, which means that my computer can go down and like within the day I have a new computer and I'm already set up again. Like, so I think that's like one of the biggest benefits is just making sure that you have like backups and cloud storage.
Yeah, this is the
'cause that
year
way you can
I
stay
finally did the
organized.
cloud storage because I realized I had 160 gigabytes of pose references, and maybe
yeah.
70% of them are unposted. The world has never seen them. And if my computer goes down, so does all those years of work, and I was like, wow, I better back this
Yeah.
stuff up.
I lost like 3 months of PSD files. Never again. I have
Never
everything
again.
now. I have 13 terabytes of Dropbox.
yeah, that happened to me once too. And it was in the middle of like a lot of crucial work and my computer just everything gone.
Backup. Cloud,
Luckily
cloud,
I
cloud.
did. I had other computers that had my other stuff in it, luckily.
That's
but
awesome.
there were some files that got corrupted for some reason and I couldn't restore them. So that was not fun.
Yeah, so one of the things that I personally have struggled with, and I know that a lot of creatives struggle with, is just having a business mindset. I don't know if it's like a left brain, right brain thing or what it is, but I feel like it's pretty consistent among artists that they just don't think of, it's creative first and like business second. How do you guys figure out, out of all the things that you're doing, especially when you're starting out, like how do you know what to monetize? What can I monetize? Different ways to monetize things. I think a lot of people just don't even really know where to start.
I think it takes a lot of like observation of the market, but also I think it's important to look at other alternative ones. I think a lot of people just look at people famous on social media and think, that's it, that's the way I'm supposed to do this. There's a lot of fields that artists fit into. So there's a lot of different ways to monetize your stuff. There's a lot of resources out there. And like if someone else is doing it, you could probably do it too. If you just look at the way that they manage their things, just observe, really.
Yeah, so you're
That's
talking
what I
about all the
did.
different fields that are available. Do you have any specific examples?
Well, I mean, like we're not all just like Patreon type artists, right? We're not
Right.
all social media famous people. Some people work in studios exclusively, or they do contractual work, but they don't have like a huge online presence. So you're not restricted to just drawing like the waifu of the week to be considered a successful artist or somebody who lives off of their work,
So RJ, I'm curious, how did you decide along the way? Because I know you've got quite a bit of presence of things for sale, like tutorials and kind of assets and stuff within your store. How did you decide what to sell and when and what to give away for free and all that kind of stuff?
I mean, yeah, you just look at like what everybody else is selling and you're like, oh, I could probably sell something like that too. It's like Gumroad stuff. They started doing like, like short tutorials and selling those. Like every big artist was doing that in like 2014. And it was like a gold rush. And it's like, so yeah, I can record my screen. I can do that. But yeah, it's just like trying to find as many avenues to like get as much money out of like drawing one picture. Like one picture can like you can record a video of it, make that a tutorial, but then you can also sell prints of it, and then you can also like repost it every so often and drive people to like your other prints. So like it's just trying to get as much out of as little work as possible, because you have to do so much to make a living as an artist.
Yeah.
See, it's interesting that you say that, RJ, because for me, the pose reference is like like the more that the pose reference grows, the less like financially dependent on my art I become. So that means that I can do more
Mm.
art that I want, because if the pose reference stuff is selling and I'm getting money from like pack sales and Patreon and things like that, and like then that gives me time to like make art, which is what I want to be doing too, you know? So it's
Yeah,
like really
getting that passive income is that's the
great.
dream. Like just being able to
I
coast on like stuff you did 10 years ago. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I also wanted to point out that sometimes it's when you make the thing that nobody else really wants to do.
Mm,
Sometimes making a product that other
niche.
people, they're too lazy to do it. I don't want to have to draw this thing from scratch, but this person made this resource that makes it really easy to get this done. So, and like not really many people have made that thing. You're solving a problem that not really many people have solved. I remember a few years ago, I was really annoyed because I wanted to find reference for fabric draping, fashion, and stuff like that. So I made my own. And now I have like this competitor on a site I won't mention who's now just putting out a bunch of fabric because, oh, this person did this. Let me just, it's like, well, you know what? That would have been nice if you did that before. But hey, at least there's more out there, I guess. But
You just described like how I became what I do, you
yeah, I
know?
just want to say thank you, by the way, because I've been following you for a long time, by the way.
We should be friends.
Yay.
Yeah, I think that there's an idea of looking out and seeing, what problems that do people have and how can you solve them. I remember Micah was telling me about her experience with creating brushes and people asking for brushes and things like, yeah, Micah, you want to touch on that? Like brushes, gradient maps, the things that you have for sale in your store?
I refused for a long time to make brushes. That was the beginning of me selling things, actually, is because I just got fed up one day and I was like, man, if I had $1 for every time, oh,
Oh,
all right, fine. Here's your brushes. Okay.
that's beautiful.
That's literally what happened.
Yeah.
But I also, anytime I make a resource, I do genuinely try to make sure it's something that I actually would use and actually serves a purpose. I make everything that I sell with myself in mind. That way, when people ask me about it, I can give them a genuine response. I'm not just like throwing stuff out there just to hope it sticks. Because I think people recognize that too when you're just spamming online just to try to sell anything. I don't know. I think it kind of puts people off, kind of the same way as like not posting art anymore and all you do is sell stuff, kind of like what RJ said earlier.
Yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to touch on, and this is a theme that I think is pretty prevalent for a lot of artists that are just getting started, is the idea of how much time and investment do I put into social media? How relevant is social media? Should I chase those follows? How important is that? I'm just curious for you and your experience, RJ, like how much of an impact in your success has social media played?
I mean, it's like the whole thing. Like that's like you have two jobs as a freelance artist. You have like, actually learning how to draw and get good at drawing. And then you have like the social media job. Like, so, you know, the number of followers you have does not correspond to the amount of money you have. Like, there's like a lot of small accounts that think like big accounts are just rich, but like that's not true. But what it does do is it like opens doors to opportunities that like, if you had like 500 followers, you would not get if you had, but you can get it if you have like 100,000 followers.
Right.
Yeah, we talked about that a little, like, having a huge social media following doesn't equal success, but it doesn't hurt getting to the success.
Well, it also really matters like how you get your following, because there's like gimmick accounts, right, that have like
Right.
500,000 followers, but like they can't really like successfully monetize because people are there for a certain type of content. They're not there for like the person running the account. So like it's really important to build like yourself as sort of like you are a brand, but you're also a person. Like you want to make sure that people understand that like they're coming to you to see like what you make, and then you also need to make that money. So it's sort of like building this audience that also wants to like help you.
Yeah. So how do you guys balance the feeling that a lot of people have that they need to kind of jump on whatever the latest trend is, or do some fan art to become relevant, that kind of mentality?
Mike is cringing.
Micah, why don't you tell us what your thoughts are?
Well, I really hate being forced to draw like doing the whole waifu of the month thing. I know some artists thrive in that and I'm happy for them, but I can't do it. Like I just spaz out and like the work doesn't come out good. I don't know anything about this character. I can't really do a genuine, like, loving interpretation of this. I don't like it. And also I end up attracting more fans who like stuff that I'm not interested in. So why would I perpetuate that in my socials? Because what you're going to do in the end of the day is build a following that if you decide to go in a completely different direction, they're probably not going to follow you there, you know? I mean, they might, but good luck, honestly. You'd have to put out something that is of the nature of what you were putting out, I would feel. And I've seen that go wrong for a lot of people where they build an entire career on one thing and then they switch to, I don't know, painting frogs, and then nobody's interested. Nobody wants to see your frogs, bro. Like, not here. You should, like, so when it comes to fan art, I compromise by, at least I'll stick to something that's within the realms of something I like, because then I'm kind of attracting people who have the same interests as me, and they're more likely to be excited about the things I'm excited about. So when I release something I really care about, maybe it'll mean something more. And also they'll see that I put my heart into what I made instead of just shilling stuff.
So I'm curious how much of your time you guys spend or invest in private commissions, if that's much of a factor in your overall income, or if you mostly work with bigger corporations. I mean, what does that balance look like for you?
I have never worked with a big corporation. Somebody work with me.
Well, you're here.
Okay, Deviant Art loves me. It's true.
Yeah, this counts.
Yeah, that's my dream still. Yeah, with art or with stock, is to do a big project with somebody, like I don't know. I don't even know what it would be. I like to joke that if the creator of Sailor Moon wants me to design some beautiful hair bows for her brand, she should let me know.
Yeah, but on the idea of the bows, you also did talk to me about, the difference between having bows that, that are you can kind of mass produce, and the difference between that and like custom bows for specific
Oh
clients.
yeah. My favorite thing right now is that I can just make bows, and then the people who are in my Facebook group, they buy them. And if I want to take custom orders, I can, and I do occasionally, but I'm at the point now where I can just make whatever I want, and then the people purchase it. So it's like I have ADHD, so my brain thrives on the good feels. So when I'm working on stuff that I enjoy, that I love, that I care about, it comes out beautiful and it's exciting and it's easy to do, and it's like I'm not even trying to make the art. And when I'm working on custom orders, I still love it. It's still great to like take people's ideas and bring it to life, but it's so much harder, like serotonin wise, to be like hype when you're doing paid work on that level. It's work at that point. It's not your passion. And even though you're doing a thing that you love, art, you're excited about it. It's just that extra element of, this is for X and I have to do it to the specifications of X, and the difference between that and, like, I feel like young artists think that, art is this pure thing, and if you make money on it, you've sullied it, and everybody knows that that's junk. But you do have to make money to survive. But there is some truth in the fact that making art for the sake of making art does have like a power and an energy, I feel like,
Yeah.
that you don't get from custom paid stuff. You can put all that love and energy into your custom paid work, but it just, at the end of the day, being able to make shit you want is great.
What does that balance look like for you, Micah?
I was gonna say something similar because I also have ADHD.
Yay!
So it drives me
Yeah.
nuts. It's also kind of where I was coming from with the fan art thing too, trying to force myself into some kind of box and meet someone else's specifications. It takes me longer
It's
to
way
do
longer.
pieces like that. I don't do personal ones. I'll do ones for companies, but outside of that, I try to stick to my own stuff if I can.
What about you, RJ? How much of your time do you spend with private commissions, or is it
It's very little, mostly just because like you get to a certain like echelon of like, quality and pay, and then just like regular people can't afford you anymore. And I'm not like trying to brag about that or whatever, but it's just like, so it's really hard for somebody who want to spend like, multiple thousands of dollars on like one drawing. Like, a company can get that and make a lot of money off of it, but like for one person, it's like they have to save up a lot for that. Also, like Micah was touching on with the fan art stuff, like it's just really hard for me to work on something that I'm not like really invested in or interested in. So, if I'm working on something for somebody, like it has to be an idea that I'm like really into. And if I am like super into it, I can, negotiate and make a deal that like becomes affordable. yeah, I just, man, it's so hard to like get that motivation to just like go on something that as soon as like a job stops being like fun or I'm passionate about, I'm just counting the days until it's over and I get to leave.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's like, okay, so I did a personal commission. Even if they could afford my regular rate, can I really promote myself with this? Because if it's like your random OC thing, like how far is this going to go on
Yeah.
like social media and like help perpetuate my brand? If it doesn't do that, then it's even less incentive for me to want to spend my time on that, because my time is really precious to me right now. And I really want to put my efforts in something that's going to give me freedom later. And if this doesn't do that, it's nothing personal. I just, I can't do this.
I know there's going to be artists
Yeah.
listening to this thinking, for me, when do I get to that? And it's, I mean, really, you just keep going. And the thing that I said is like, build up your peers, right? Like, so the people who are rising with you at the same time, the people who are in the same sort of part of their art career, like hype each other up, build each other up, like be each other's team, because when you guys all start getting to that end game, or when you start getting to the point where you feel like you're like stabilizing in your career, you're going to be able to like carry all those people with you, or it's just all like, let's go, friends.
Yeah. So what is Micah, you and I touched a little bit on the idea of networking versus just chasing followers on social media. How's that contributed to your success thus far?
Well, I don't really have like a huge amount of followers compared to some of my own friends even, but I just kind of just talk to people, and I was social and I joined communities and met other professionals, and kind of somehow wound up in a lot of those circles. I mean, I wouldn't even be in this call right now had that not happened. Um, but it wasn't like I was calculating it. It was just kind of a natural progression, and just genuinely meeting people and learning through them and being exposed to a lot of new ideas and just cool opportunities that even with a lot of followers, some people just can't get those things. So I would say that, a lot of people tend to romanticize people with large followings as just the successful ones, but there's a lot of people who I'm aware of who have like virtually no followings, and they're working on the movies that influence our popular culture,
Hmm.
like, and they're living pretty well and they hardly have any presence. So it's just, again, there's like so many different ways to be an artist outside of just, I don't know, being popular on Instagram and drawing girls selfies. I don't know.
Yeah. So it looks like you got some thoughts there, Sarah.
No, it's true. It's like there's so many routes to success, and I think, I'm going to be 40 in 2 years, and most of my friends are, at the point in their art careers where they found a place that's comfortable for them, where they're doing something that they enjoy. A lot of them took a really long road to get there. So like they tried to force themselves into roles that they thought were going to make them successful, but in the long run it turned out that doing the stuff they really love to do was built their success so much better, because people can see your passion. Like when you're super into something and it's like what you love doing, RJ says he makes monsters and creatures and stuff. I got a friend who spent all of her art career trying to not do that thing that she wanted to do so much. And now that, she's doing creatures, she's living, right? Like, so she just had to, this Sarah Dollinger, by the way, she just had to do what she was passionate about, and now she's just killing it. So like I think we assign ourselves like these very strict ways that we think we can get success. If I get 10,000 followers, if I get 1,000 patrons or whatever, then I'll be successful. But if you're not, if your passion isn't showing through your work, it's really, really hard to reach that point, I think.
So we're getting close to the end of our time here, but I wanted to kind of wrap things up and just give you guys an opportunity, because it seems like there's been a consistent theme around the idea of monetization, and just the fact that a lot of it's just trial and error, a little bit of it's luck, and a lot of it is it just takes some time. So, just kind of go through each of you if you had some kind of last minute advice that you wanted to give to people that are looking to monetize their craft. What advice would you give those people?
I would say to not place your entire value on some, I'd say like some brand or an idea of a brand or some company. Like I wouldn't seek validation like solely through like one path of being an artist or one idea of success. I think that we should define those things for ourselves. We should like value our work more and treat ourselves as such in such a way that we don't allow those things to, I guess, I don't know, demean is the right word, but I guess devalue your work and you as a creator and as a person. You know, your physical energy is also really important. And if you just tear yourself apart trying to chase some idea of something that you think makes you more legitimately an artist or worthwhile or worthy, it's just not worth it, in my opinion.
Thank you for that. RJ, looked like you had some thoughts. We kind of jumped in right on top of you there.
For me, I think one of the most important things for an artist is to hold off monetizing their work as long as they can, so they can like build up their skill and like really find out like the types of work that they are like most creatively fulfilled by, and like the stuff that they actually want to do. Because there's so many artists that think, you know, I want to be like a character designer for video games, and then they start doing it and they like, oh, you know, I kind of like drawing this other thing more, I want to do that. And so like being allowed that time to like sort of focus on like finding like who you want to be as an artist and the stuff that you get really excited about. And then once you get there, being like, okay, I'm ready for money now. Like then you can start like getting the people giving you money for what you actually want to do, you know? And like I think that's going to make you a better artist, and you are also going to be making more money, because you will find a position that you get like really good at one thing, as opposed to like trying to fit yourself into somebody else's mold.
Yeah, I thought RJ and I disagreed, but we don't disagree. We just agree differently. So he was saying like wait until you know, like he was saying like don't monetize until you know what you want to do, and I was going to tell people don't wait to start. So, but I think it's actually the same advice, because um, you can start setting up things like subscription based access to sneak peek, that type thing. You can start that stuff very early and very simply. You can start it as, hey guys, art, I want art to be my full-time career. Here's a way that you can support my journey. I'll show you some neat things along the way. And it doesn't have to be like a big complicated thing. You can keep it simple. But if you're asking those people from day one to like support you, it's like an investment account. It builds over time. So you start with that handful of people, and if you only have 2 or 3 supporters and one of them's your grandmother, like that's fine, because you've started, and then you're building from that point on. And it's okay if you change your mind and you restructure and redesign things on the way and you figure it out. Some people will stick with you, some people will go, but I feel like the sooner you start, like investing in yourself, believing in yourself, and being like, I can do this. As long as you're keeping it simple and you're not overcommitting yourself, I feel like there's no reason to not like draw that comic, like do that thing, like just start now. Like don't wait until you're a real artist to do the stuff you want to do.
Yeah, I remember when I was first, so I was still working at the studio that I was working at, and I was thinking about streaming and thinking about trying something new. And there's a lot of fears and a lot of anxieties. And I had been working as a professional for almost 9 years, but at the same time, it was just the idea of transitioning to something new that was scary. And I remember, you know, I would go to the gym with a friend of mine, and we would have discussions about this kind of stuff. And he was a big help in me being, you know, bold enough to take that step. But yeah, I just remember just a lot of the, well, what ifs, or what if I'm not ready for this, or what if, you know, and like the infinite amount of what ifs that you could come up with that might kind of stand in your way of just doing the thing, right? And he told me, I don't remember exactly what he said, but the idea of just you're gonna have to do it, you're gonna have to jump, and you're probably going to fail, and then you're probably going to fail again, and then you're probably going to fail again, but you're going to learn things about yourself, learn things about what you're doing that are going to help you as you go. And I don't think there's really any other way. I mean, in my conversations with you guys, and in my conversations with people in the community, or even just in my own experience, I don't think it's possible to get through the journey as an artist without some form of failure, and picking yourself back up, dusting yourself off, and trying again. As long as you're willing to do that, willing to just see it through, work hard, try things out, be brave, be bold, go for it. There's a lot of opportunities to monetize your craft as an artist, and it looks different for so many different people.
And take care of your body and get enough sleep and drink enough water and
sure.
stretch. And
Yep. I want to talk to you guys about one of the next prizes that we are going to announce here. So on deviantart.com/team right now, you'll see recently uploaded deviation called Besties. We want you to go there, tag your DeviantArt BFF in the comments. The first 5 people to do this will get themselves a 1-year subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud photography plan for both of them and their friend. Thank you to everyone for joining us on the stream today. Hope you had a lot of fun, learned a lot. We had an awesome discussion, and I just wanted to give a huge shout out and thanks to all of our panelists. Chat, if you've got commissions, premium galleries, or subscriptions rolling on DeviantArt, feel free to share them. And if you haven't checked out DeviantArt's new subscriptions, make sure to give them a look and get started monetizing your art. Also, don't forget to check out the videos all day long and enter the World Inside Your Mind contest here on Day of the Deviant. Finally, let's go around one more time and everyone can share their DeviantArt accounts. My name is Sitten. I go by StumpyFungo online. You can find me at deviantart.com/StumpyFungo. Micah, then Sarah, and then RJ. Tell us where we can find you on DeviantArt.
My name is Sozo Micah, SOZOMAIKA, literally anywhere. That's how you can find me on DeviantArt.
I'm Sarah Ford. Everybody knows me as a Dorkastock. You can find me under that name on DeviantArt and most social media. And my Bose is a Dorkabose. Very convenient to remember those.
Yeah, I'm RJ Palmer. I'm Arvalis on DeviantArt, ARVALIS. I'm that on a few other places or whatever. Just Google me. You'll find me.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate all of you guys coming out to hang out and chat with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.